You're listening to the Infatuasian podcast, where we get together to talk about Asian things that we love. This is Julia, and on today's episode, we will be continuing to discuss the differences between growing up as an Asian Australian versus being an Asian American.
Hey everyone, welcome back to episode number 17, part 2. And we're just doing a little departure from what we normally do. But this episode and last episode, we're just talking about life as an Asian Aussie or as an Asian American. And we're joined again by our friends from Down Under, Roxane and Julia. Welcome back, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so good to have you here.
Happy to be back.
So they host a podcast called the Asian Soup Podcast. Hopefully you all gave them a listen. And we're also rejoined by one of my co-hosts from before, Mandy. Welcome back, Mandy.
Thank you for having me.
So glad you're here. And our brand new intern, I don't know if we have, she's more like the executive producer, but we have my high school student. We have Madison. Hey, Maddie.
Hello.
Welcome back, everyone. All right. Are you ready for another game? We're going to start with another game. And this is kind of going along with the theme of how are we similar? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a statement, and then you get to just say, I'll read the statement, and then I'll just kind of go 1, 2, and then you say yes or you say no. All right, if you agree with this statement or not. We're going to see, I think what came out last week from what I gathered, I feel like we have more in common than we have difference. I don't know. Do you guys feel that way? Did you feel that way after last episode?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So this may just turn into how Asian Australians and how Asian Americans are the same people, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm going to read the statement, and you're going to say, I'll just go 1, 2, 3, and then you guys say yes or no. All right, ready? Did you have to go to an Asian language school when you were younger? 1, 2.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh. So everyone's yes except Maddie, you're yes too? Oh, wow.
Uh-huh.
So I'm the only one. I'm the only one. Yeah. All right. Well, that's 4 out of 5 of us. All right. Ready for this one? This is controversial. All right. Are you good at math? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
No.
Oh, okay. Only one person. Hey, Roxanne's good at math. All right. So we are breaking stereotypes, everyone. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, my daughter is good at math though, so that's good.
I feel like you would be good at math
I was good up to algebra.
because you're a teacher.
Well, that's why I did biology though, Maddie, instead of chemistry or physics. Yeah. So I wasn't good at the maths. All right. This is kind of a weird one. See if you're going into a room where you're not the majority, all right? Do you make a mental count of how many Asians are in the room, right? Not a numerical count, but just kind of a scan of the room. Like maybe you're at a club, or maybe not like a nightclub, but like a college club, or maybe you're at a meeting. Do you make a mental count of how many Asians are in the room? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay, we all do. I guess I thought that would be something that we all do. You kind of survey the room. Like if you're at a gym and you're working out, you kind of like, okay, let's see who's in here. All right, let's see if this one is true. Is Mulan your favorite Disney princess? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
No.
Yes. Oh, really?
I'm surprised.
Oh, man. Yeah, so me and Maddie, yes.
No, I said no.
Oh, you
I
said
said yes.
no. So me and Mandy, yes. Julia, who's your favorite princess? You have a favorite
I don't
princess?
really have one.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one, it would be Mulan.
Yeah,
Okay.
same here.
Roxy,
Yeah.
you have a princess?
I think I would pick Snow White because she had black hair. I thought she was kind of Asian. And I always watched Snow White. I love the Seven Dwarfs. I think they were funny. But it's
Yeah, she had the
unrelated
fair
to
skin.
like what she actually did. She didn't really do much. She just ate a poisonous apple.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, it's just I actually thought she was Asian too with the black hair. All right, this is one. This may be too personal. This may hit you in the feels. Have you ever heard the words "I love you" from your parents in any language? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
No.
Yes.
No.
Really?
Does
so
a
who's the
text
yes? Maddie
count?
was a yes. Text? No, text doesn't count. I don't think it's too easy.
No.
So Maddie was a yes. Everyone else is a
I
no.
was a yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think my mom's pretty affectionate. Not from dad so much, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, even my Americanized parents did not really. So I mean, they cook for you,
Yeah.
they provide
Different
for you,
love
they take
language,
care.
I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that was just for fun. So I think we have a lot in common. I think again, there's stereotypes in there, so don't come at us with the stereotypes. But just for fun, yeah, I think we've established that diaspora, those of us who are all over the world, have things in common for sure, just because of our parents. Even several generations down the road, these things get passed on, right? So cool. What is the vibe like in what do most people do? Like in Bay Area, most people out here work in either technology or big companies. You know, we have all the Googles, the Apples, the Twitters out here. What's the scene like in Sydney? What do most people do for a living out there? Is there one industry that's bigger than others?
This is a good question. Like I feel like yeah, San Fran is really known for the tech side and like just it's so unique in the whole world that you're known for that. In terms of Sydney, I don't really see like a particular strong industry that really stands out like that. So but I know that there's a lot of different industries. Like I was in the fashion industry and now I'm in telco. But the food scene is definitely really big in Sydney, I feel. Um, yeah, what do you reckon? There's a few tech firms like growing as well here.
Yeah, so I guess we're based really speaking from our experience as Asian Aussies, and what people around us do. But like around us, there's a lot of people working in banks or um, like some lawyers and school teachers. Like it's very similar, but I think everything's like on a smaller scale. We do have like a growing tech scene in Australia. I know like even the Australian government, they really want to push to have like a, you know, the Silicon Valley sort of thing in Sydney as well. So they are pushing tech because, you know, it's really great for job opportunities and there is potential here because I think it's a bit cheaper as well, like to set up like a company here. Yeah, I actually, I think this is one of the questions later, but I actually work in tech. So I'm always like keeping a close eye out for like different companies. And I can see that there are lots of like startups. But I'm so in it, so I can see it. But yeah, I definitely see like a little boom happening in Sydney as well around tech.
And then speaking of Shang-Chi, I think there's a mini like film industry here growing because a lot of there's some like, you know, US films that get filmed and produced here. So there's a little bit of that as well, maybe.
Yeah,
so,
that's right. They did film it. They filmed a lot of it, the special effects over there. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So let's go transition. Well, since we were talking a little bit about the similarities last week, I wonder if we can come up with any differences between growing up here in America and growing up in Australia as an Asian. This may be hard. This may be hard for us because we're in the city, so it's kind of a little different. But what do you think? Do you think when people see you, do they think of you as an Australian, or are they always going to kind of see you as an Asian first and then an Australian second?
It's interesting because that question is more like what I think they think of me. And I think it really depends on where I am. So when I feel like I am, you know, when I'm doing that mental count of how many Asians there are, in those sort of moments, I'll probably be like, oh, they know I'm an Asian. Whereas some other times, like I feel like I completely blend in and they see me as just another person.
Mhm.
Something that I've sort of noticed recently is that when I'm surrounded by lots of other people from other places, so for example, when I worked in my agency, there were so many people from like England and like from Europe and all these like mixed races. And when I was sort of in that environment, I really felt like, oh, because everyone's not from here, there was more, it just did feel comfortable. There was something really comforting about that. So yeah, it really depends on which situation, which situation I'm in and what I'm feeling that day as well. Am I feeling like a little bit more insecure, or am I feeling really confident today? Like I just watched Parasite, so I feel really like G'd up or something. It really depends.
Yeah. How about you, Mandy? Do you think people see you, like if you're in Sacramento or something, do they see you as an American or do they see you?
I think it does depend on like who I'm with. But I do think that because it's what you see first. I think I come off as, I think they see me as Asian first, American second, for sure. Yeah.
Funny story. When I was in Shanghai, we were going to a disco. Well, it was a nightclub, right? And they had a foreigners for free night. So if you were a foreigner or an expat, you can get in for free. And I was like, oh man, I don't have I didn't bring my passport with me or anything. And they were like, don't worry, they'll know. Like when you walk through the door, right? It's a Chinese nightclub, but they're like, don't worry, they'll know you're American just by looking at you. And I was like, really? But I guess it was kind of like, I always thought I looked really Chinesey, but they're like, in China, you look really American. But I didn't really get that until that moment where I was like, oh, I guess I am American in their eyes. More so. Roxane, could they recognize you, or could you blend in invisibly in Hong Kong?
I think, yeah, that's interesting. I think like walking down the street, you can blend in. But then when you're in a workplace, or if you're in a situation where you're socializing or you'll talk to people, or even when I just start speaking, or even if I'm getting my nails done and I'm talking to them, they're like, oh, you're like not from here.
Yeah.
Or I think the dress sense or the way we speak is definitely different. I think that's about it. Like as soon as you talk, they'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even after 5 years, even after 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I thought my Canto got better. But definitely like my friends and stuff, there's some expressions that I am not like, the slang and the way they express themselves, it's definitely on another level.
Yeah. Is there a do you guys know the term model minority? Do they use that in Australia at all?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it started in America, but I'm sure it's probably true in other places too, where it's basically like, oh, Asians will do well in school. They won't cause trouble. They'll work hard. You can the Asian women will be more submissive, or, there's kind of like this view of Asians as being passive or submissive, or sometimes positives, there's positive, like, oh yeah, they'll be good at math, or they'll be, they'll work hard, or they won't cause any trouble in your classroom. Do you feel like that was something that you had to kind of get used to in Australia, or just accept, or fight against? Is that a thing that's happening in Australia at all for Asians?
I feel like it's something that's happened without us knowing. And I feel like it's only recently been more like brought to the light more for us to reflect on and talk about, especially with things that were happening in America, like really recently.
Right.
The model minority and representation in media and film and everything like that, even in the workplace. So, you have like, okay, women in the workplace, and then you also have the Asians in the workplace and being in more positions of, management or things like that. It's like the more that it's spoken about and shared or discussed like we are now, the more I feel like I learned that, wow, I was in that model minority. Let's just try to fit in. Like, bring normal lunch to school. Like everyone had kind of had that experience, you know, and it's really interesting. Like I feel like it's definitely true, but we don't notice it until I haven't noticed it until recently, and reflect on it more and chat on it, about it more. Yeah. How about you?
How about you, Maddie? Do you have any thoughts on being a model minority or not being a model?
Well, I don't know. I don't like it because I think that it holds Asian people to an impossible standard. So it's like really exhausting. And also, I don't know, I just feel like because people think that Asians are the model minority, they sort of use that to weaponize other minority groups. And I just don't think that's fair.
Yeah.
So it's a very tricky thing.
Yeah. That and like, you know, when you don't fit into, you know, that mold or however they cast you out to be, it's like, oh, it's because you're lazy. You know, that's why you're not, you know, that's why you're struggling. And like in reality, it's like you could be struggling for a variety of reasons, but you know, that gets overlooked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then when you're applying for scholarships or, you know, even just plain old admission to different colleges, that was kind of one of the things about that movie, Try Harder, we were talking about, is how a lot of the prestigious colleges or universities here in America, you know, they kind of look at the Asian applicant with a little bit of disdain, where it's like, well, they have great test scores and great grades, but they don't have any personality, or they don't have, you know, something different about them. And for scholarships, they will blatantly say, you know, we're looking for people of color, not Asian. You know, they'll just say, we don't want whites to apply, and we don't want Asians to apply. And that's super unfair for the kid who is an immigrant or totally underrepresented group like Cambodian or Hmong, you know, or there's groups that are clearly underrepresented in colleges, and yet they don't get the same advantages because they're lumped into this group of being an Asian.
I feel like Asians are in this like weird in between where we're like we have experiences of racism and like prejudice and stuff, but at the same time we're also seen as like the white adjacent. And so it's like I don't know, like where do we fit in?
Yeah, there's sometimes we're minorities or people of color, and sometimes we're not. So
exactly.
Like, well, what am I? Yeah, it's tricky.
I also think too, like when we talk about Asians, are we specifically talking about East Asians? Are we also talking about South Asians, Southeast Asians? It's just we're a big group, and I feel like we all have different stories. Even within like, you know, the Chinese community, we all have different experiences, and that could lead to like, you know, different outcomes. And yeah.
I actually got a note from someone, and I know him, but, you know, we were talking about food or we're talking about Asian things on this podcast, and he was like, hey, how come you never talk about South Asian or Afghanistan, Central Asian, you know, Uzbekistan, like, and yeah, it made me think like, oh, am I catering to East Asian, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, you know, is that kind of, you know, we don't talk about Indonesians that often. We don't talk about, you know, Filipino or Pakistan. You know, there's a lot of issues that we don't address on this podcast, but we call ourselves the Infatuasian podcast. And so I have to be aware of that sometimes, that I am even guilty of lumping Asians together. Any other thoughts on that, or we can move on?
I mean, I can talk about it for days, but
yeah, I know. Well, let's talk a little bit about university. And Maddie, you can prepare yourself for university a little bit. When you did you guys stay in Sydney for university, or did you travel a little out of town for college?
So in Sydney, it's really quite different to the like college experience in America. Well, this is just from what I see in the American movies and the dramas. But yeah, mostly like people in Sydney, we only have like a handful of universities that we go to unless you choose to go overseas. And I would say like they're all in Sydney. So most of the time, if you're living in Sydney and you want to go to a university here, you'll just stay here. And you could actually just live at home and go to university. That was like the common sort of setup for most of my friends, unless my friend from Sydney went to Melbourne or like Newcastle or somewhere different, like Brisbane or somewhere like that to study. In if it's outside those like special cases, most of them just stayed here. Yeah.
So you don't really need to go out of town.
No.
Is it free or is it like subsidized?
I think that's a very big difference to like between Australia and American, like the university experience. So here in Australia, we have a thing called HECS. So, is it SATs? When you guys do your SATs, you get your mark. And if you hit a certain mark, you can use that mark to apply for the degree that you want to do. And HECS is, it's like a loan from the government with very, 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 very low interest, basically nothing. And so you can pay the HECS off once you're working and you pass a certain threshold. I think do you know what the threshold is?
Yeah, I think it's like 60 or 70K a year. And then they'll take like each paycheck, they'll take a few % out to pay off your HECS loan. And then you'll slowly pay it off, or you can make voluntary payments while you're at uni and pay it off. So the pressure is definitely different. Like I wouldn't say easy, but like you have the opportunity to go to uni, and we don't have, because when I went to uni in France for a year, and there was differences, right? Like there's public universities in France, and then there's the grand écoles, which is like your Harvard or something, like the private, more prestigious universities. Whereas in Australia, there's like a lot of universities, but they're not. You can get HECS for all of them. You don't need to put in extra money or something like that. Like you're all judged from your year 12, like you said, the exam. And I want to add that exam score does not mean much. It means a lot, but like it depends on your course and the supply demand of your course. So my first course was fashion, and you would think that you don't need like a 99 for fashion, okay? But because the course at that uni, there were only like 40 spots in the whole like state, that score was really high, like the same score as someone who wanted to be a lawyer who would probably need more brains than me. So it just never made sense to my mom. And she was like, what the hell, why are you studying fashion with such a high score? It just doesn't make sense sometimes. So it depends on what courses are available and how many spots there are, or which uni you're at, or That
sounds pretty good. Our system is a lot of kids are getting into huge debt just to go to college, and sometimes it takes years and half a lifetime to pay it off. So that sounds a great system. It probably has to do with your taxes and paying a little more on your taxes, but sounds good to me though.
Mm-hmm.
Did your parents like your choices, or did they have any influence on the field of study that you had?
No, not for me at least.
Yeah.
My parents are very relaxed, and they'd never pushed me to study law or anything like that. They basically said like, do whatever you want to do. So I picked communications, and like I ended up, I guess my role right now is like the role I have right now at work is using my degree, which is quite good. But at the time, I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. I think I picked that course because I edited a video during high school, and I thought that was fun. And I was like, okay, I'm going to study film now.
My dad didn't mind what I wanted to do. He was just always like, do what makes you happy. It's up to you as long as you try hard. But for my mom, I think she wanted, because she was in the fashion production side, she was like, don't do fashion. please, 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 please do accounting, like blah, blah, blah. Like, so for her, it was always like, do accounting. And I was about to, and I did these cadetship interviews. I don't know if you have them, but it's like a graduate cadetship at, say, PwC or something. And they kind of pay you, like you kind of work for them when you graduate, and they have a program while you're at uni. So you have a better chance of getting a job after you graduate. But I didn't get in. So I was like, screw this, I'm gonna do fashion. And but it was a kind of, I had to keep fighting that until like recently.
I feel like I didn't get like much pressure from my parents, but I was feeling the pressure from my peers because everyone was studying commerce or accounting, and everyone was aiming to get into one of the big four banks. I mean, not everyone, but when we just graduated from high school, that was what was surrounding me. So I did feel like, ooh, did I pick the right thing? There was a lot of uncertainty around that.
Mm-hmm.
That was not the cool thing, but that was the thing that everyone did.
Yeah, around here, everyone wants to do computer science or maybe the commerce side of tech, but not everyone. There's definitely others, but it is a popular choice out here just because I think that's what they know. Growing up here, they see the big companies. Yeah. So.
I think it was different for me when I was in high school and selecting my major. I think my mom also, she didn't really care, but she thought that studying business was the more sensible choice instead of international studies. But yeah, she never like pushed me. I actually selected business. And then I saw like the math classes that I would have to take, and I just switched right away.
Oh man, how about socially in college? Did you find yourself gravitating towards groups that had a large Asian population, or does that matter to you at all when you were in college?
I think I had that experience more in high school. So in primary school, that was when I I felt like, oh, this is very white. But in high school, that was when because I went to a very Asian high school. So my whole high school experience, I always felt like I was around my people. And I felt like very comfortable. We ate whatever lunches we wanted, talked about dramas and stuff like that. In a way, I was very blessed. So I never felt like I was the minority almost. I was just like I guess I was part of the majority almost. But in university, it was a very different experience. I felt like, I couldn't really find like my Asian like crew, I guess. In the end, like I look back now and I did make really good friends, but we weren't really like the group. It was just more like individuals, I would say. Yeah. So I think it was more in high school I felt that, not so much in university. But I also do think that the American movies sort of skewed my perspective on what the university life is going to be like. It was quite confusing because, like college is meant to be like you live in these dorms and all this stuff. And like, I don't know about you, Rox, but like consuming American media and growing up, it confuses you a little bit, like reading the Babysitter's Club and stuff as a kid, and reading about Twinkies and stuff. And you're like, but it's not, you're not living the experience. It's just like, and as a kid, you're like, what's real and what's not. But later when I realized that the Australian university experience is very different and you don't move cities to go to university, you just stay in your own city, you still live with your parents. I think that was a bit like, oh, it's really different. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I missed out on the dorm life experience of college, like, college days. And I'm like, I'm just catching the train back to my parents' place. I guess I could move out, and like after you work a bit, you can move out. But you're still in Sydney. So it's like nothing different. And then I feel like in high school, I had like two different high schools, and my second one was more Asian. And then doing fashion design and international studies, there are quite a few Asians there. But in general, I didn't I don't know. I didn't feel I think I was actually very naive back then because I remember someone asking me for their project in fashion about representation in models and just even whether it be like on the catwalk, like fashion shows or in fashion magazines, and whether there's enough Asian representation. And this is kind of embarrassing that I'm sharing this, but like my stance, I think I was like 18 or 19 at the time. And I was like, oh, I guess that's just how it is because we're in Australia and it's white. Like, am I like, is it even like a request to have more representation? I didn't even think that was like like I didn't know that I could ask for that or it was a thing. I was just grew up in it and I was like, oh, what do you mean? Australia is white. So it's just all the models are white. That's it. Like, I guess that's how things are. There wasn't that question or that conversation that we have today growing up. And I just feel so, I can't believe I like thought like that. I don't know. I feel like a completely different person now, but I just feel like, oh my gosh, how could I be so dumb back then?
Well, yeah, things have changed, I think.
Things have changed.
But also you were also like a kid too back then, 18. 19.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. And then like during my master's degree, there were definitely more Asians because I was doing commerce and there are a lot of like international students as well. So yeah, it was pretty multicultural.
Yeah, my university back in when I was there in the early 90s was, I went to a really, really Asian high school. And then when I went to university, it wasn't as diverse as it is now. The college I went to, UC Davis, was right now is heavily Asian, but when I went there, it was maybe 15%. It was pretty low, yeah. And like, growing up, I had a lot of Caucasian friends, a lot of white friends, a lot of mixed friends. But when I got to college, for some reason I felt, and I didn't totally seek it out, but I felt more comfortable around Asian groups. Yeah, I don't know why. I guess it's just something about, maybe because the high school was so heavily Asian. I just felt comfortable. I felt like we connected, even though, I wasn't super Asian in my upbringing at all. Funny story though, so after I came back from Hong Kong, I went to Hong Kong in my junior year in college, my third year of college, and I came back and I was super into it. Like I said, I really wanted to know more about it. So I took Cantonese. My college offered Cantonese, and I was like, oh, the language of my people. So I took Cantonese and I got in there and I walked in. It was supposed to be beginning Cantonese, right? And everyone is yakking away in Cantonese when I get in there, because everyone was from Hong Kong or from China, and I was like, wait, is this beginning Cantonese? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, why are you guys here? And they're like, oh, we want the easy A, right? Because they get an easy grade for it. And I was like the only one who didn't speak as a native, and I struggled in that class. And luckily I had a couple partners who were native speakers. And so for our final project, we would have to do a conversation with the three of us. And so they would write it. My partners would help me out. They would write it, and they would be talking to each other in Cantonese, and then they look at me, and I would just say like, "Ho," I would just say like the one word answer to whatever they asked me. They just asked me a question, and I would just have the one word response to whatever they were saying, and that's how I passed my Cantonese class.
What does "ho" mean?
Good.
Means like yes or good. Yeah. So it's just the basic response. When someone asks you a question, you say, "Yeah, that's good." Yeah. So anyway, I had a little kind of a mixed experience in college. So moving on to careers. Now, again, if listeners out there want to know more about Julia or Roxane's careers, there's several episodes on your career journeys, and it's pretty amazing that like my career, I've had one job for the last 25 years. So I'm the opposite of you guys, where you had several different career changes or just kind of journey internships and stuff along the way. So your career journey is much more interesting than mine. But
not true.
How is being an well, I think so. But how has your journey in your careers been affected by being Asian? Has it hindered you or helped you in any way? Or can you think back on any times when being an Asian was a plus or maybe a detriment?
Yeah, I can speak here. I think for me, um, I studied film in university, and I think when I did some internships, that's when I sort of realized, oh, like I don't think I can do this because I was one of the few people who were in the industry. And also, film and video back then is very different to what it is now. Back then, it was either movies or television shows. This was before the YouTube age and all of the like digitizations of like video.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very different space now. But back then, yeah, I thought it's either television, like Australian television, or movies. I internship for an Australian television show, and um, yeah, that's when I sort of realized, like, oh, I don't really think this is, it was about like an Australian family who are going through their struggles and stuff like that. There was no Asians, obviously, in the TV show, and it was based in the Northern Beaches, which is like a very beachy area, like surfy area of Sydney. And I just felt like I don't. This is so different to me. This is not really relatable to me, and also the culture was very different to me. I just was definitely the only Asian person like on the set, and it just felt like, yeah, because I'm Asian, I don't think I can do this. So from there, I think like I sort of made the decision like I don't want to pursue film. Like I wasn't passionate enough to do it either. So I think that was like a clear moment for me when I was like thinking, yeah, being Asian, it doesn't, yeah, it's like a hindering me. I even thought like, should I go to Korea to study or find a job there? But then I also knew if I went there, there's a language barrier and also the work life culture there as well, which I didn't want to be a part of. So yeah, from there, like I think I sort of decided not to pursue that career path. But now it's very, very different. Like there's just so much has changed now, and I feel like if I was a fresh grad now, I would say this is such a good time to like go for it and just do it. Even telling my old self back then, like I think I would like to say like, oh, things are going to change, just keep pushing and go for it. I think I would have said that and not lose like confidence and just always know that it's changing. It's always changing, and you could be part of that change too.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I feel like we have different experiences with our career. And then for me, like being in fashion, it wasn't being Asian in fashion to me at the time wasn't like a hindrance or anything. It was more the fact that the fashion industry here it's hard to do well, or you really need to love it to keep working hard at it and growing in it. So then I just lost interest. I don't think it was to do with me being Asian or not. But then me moving to Hong Kong, I think a big part of that was that I wanted to experience like my Asian side and embrace my like cultural identity more and just experience living somewhere else and being invisible a bit and starting a kind of just meeting new friends and getting out of my shell more. So that was like really exciting for me. But then when I was there, it was almost like I had to my advantage there was my Western side. Like, unfortunately, because, expats or people who know English more, it's like a valuable thing there. But something that probably wasn't that great was that my Mandarin wasn't very good and I had to use it at work sometimes. So, it was interesting to be like, okay, you're good at English. You're not that good at Chinese, but like you can help us out. It's just weird to use that as an advantage. And then when you come back, it's like, oh, you're just like a normal person. But it was interesting to kind of navigate that and have colleagues where I could speak Cantonese with, and I felt like I could go through different like colleague groups, because there were some colleagues that were all like more local, and we'd all speak Cantonese and we'd all get lunch, and it's more casual feeling. And then there's colleagues where there's more expats, or like they're more Western, so maybe they want to eat different stuff, or it's just a bit different. I don't know how to feel it, but I felt like I could jump between both kind of social situations, which was cool. Yeah.
Do you feel like there's have you heard of the bamboo ceiling?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like a glass ceiling, but it's for Asians, where Asians are people hire them and they work well and they excel at their jobs, but they get up to a certain level of management. But there are very few Asian CEOs. Well, just recently in tech, there's been some more South Asians promoted to CEO, or the upper echelon of tech workers. But at some of the more traditional banks or finance companies, they don't typically promote the Asians and women to the highest levels of management. Do you feel like that's true in Australia at all, or is it just unspoken, or you don't hear of it directly?
I don't know about Australia, but it was a very visible thing in Hong Kong in corporate cultures, or depending if you're an American company or not. Seniors are definitely more expats or non-Asian if you're in a kind of international global company there. And the kind of Asian culture or Chinese culture in Hong Kong of working, it's not as outspoken. If you're like it's not as, you wouldn't share as much just as an employee. Whereas in Australia, I think people are asked to speak up more and share your ideas more, like your ideas matter, blah, blah, blah. But there it's more like, okay, like don't say anything unless I have to. Like say in a meeting, right? Like a lot of people don't want to contribute, or it's this weird cultural thing, I feel. Yeah. How about you?
I'm not the right person to answer this question because I'm quite new to the corporate culture. I spent a chunk of my life in hospitality and going back and forth between careers. So I can't really speak for what it's like here. But I have heard of the term bamboo ceiling, and like even seeing more, like I get very excited when I see Asian women in management, even just management positions. It's to the point like where I want to reach out to them, or like I always make sure I stay connected with them, just because like I know that there is that connection, and also I don't know, like it's just like this sort of, I can't explain it, but you feel like they might have your back a little bit. And I feel like that's what non-Asians might feel as well. Like, isn't that what helps you climb that ladder, or, go to the, those like high sort of C-suite like management positions. Like it's about who you know. So I feel like seeing more women in those positions, it's like, it's very exciting. And from what I hear, like, even like my this friend like a few months ago was like saying, hey, my sister is like VP of marketing for this company, like I can, you should speak to her, like because she's Asian, and like not because she's Asian, but like just the fact that it's unspoken, it's not like, hey, we're Asian, it's like you just feel connected. It's almost like a sisterly thing, or I don't know, I can't really explain it, but it is like empowering as well. So yeah, we definitely need more people. And I think there is an increase, like especially in engineering. I feel like there's at least from what I see, there's a lot of like female engineering leads in that space. So I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's sort of my experience, like, and what I see from where I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about for you guys?
Well, we're in education, so we work for the government, right? And what's interesting though, so we hire what's called a superintendent, is in charge of our district. I've been doing it for 26 years. In my 26 years, they had one Asian superintendent as an interim, but she wasn't the official one. But they never hire Asians for that. But it's always Latino or African American, and it's it's political, right? It's, even though the African American population is low at our district and the Latino population is growing, but the majority is, so the top person is never Asian. And it always kind of makes me wonder politically, does it have to do with the fact that typically Asian, again, stereotyping, Asians do well in school, so they don't need as much support or help. It's like, well, you're doing well, so we don't need to help you. It's the model minority again, where it's like, oh, you're doing well, your people, quote unquote, are doing well, so we don't need to give you any extra help. So it's kind of sticky, kind of tricky. Even principals, it's there's not a lot of Asian there's a few Asian principals.
Not a lot, I would say.
But
there are a lot of like women who are like pursue counseling, and there are also like a lot of like women teachers.
I feel like what you guys are saying now is potentially even like our future. Like even the fact that you're having this conversation, like you're raising this as a topic, like I don't know, it's kind of like what Rox was saying before about like you didn't really know it was a problem. Like for me, it's not an obvious problem to me yet. I'm just kind of passive, and I'm just like, maybe because I'm new to the corporate world, but I don't really like look at I don't know, maybe because like we're still, not as embedded in I don't know how, do you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say?
Yeah, well, I never had an Asian teacher. Like I had one Asian teacher, Miss San, and she was a Chinese teacher. So I didn't even think it's interesting that just Mandy's a counselor and you're a biology teacher. Like I've never had an Asian teacher at school. I don't even really have friends that are teachers. Like that's really exciting that there are like there should be teachers, right? Like so like you, I feel like I'm seeing it through a different lens, like just growing up, like at school, we didn't even have teachers that were Asian really to guide us or so.
And even the question, like, why isn't there an Asian principal, or it's not even a question yet. It's the question is like, I guess the question is more like, why aren't there more Asian teachers? Maybe that's the question we're asking right now. I don't know.
There,
I like very similarly, like I also never had like an Asian American teacher or an Asian teacher in elementary, middle, or high school. And it wasn't until I went to university where I was like, wow, I'm like, there are Asian, American instructors or Asian instructors. And it makes a huge difference for sure.
Maddie, do you like having Asian teachers?
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like I've always been in pretty homogenous communities where it's like the majority is Asian, and sometimes I feel a bit sheltered. So at the same time, I wish that I could be around more diverse groups. At my old school, because I went to a different high school before.
Oh, you did?
I transferred to the school I'm at now with you guys. But before, it was a lot more diverse, and it really opened my eyes to a lot more things. And it really changed my mindset. So I feel very grateful for that. So I feel happy that I have lots of Asian people to look up to. But at the same time, I also think for me, I don't know. I just think the diversity is important to me too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. All right, well, let's get off of this topic, but this might be even heavier topic. I don't know. This is a hot button issue. Let's talk for a second about interracial dating. I don't know. Is this an issue in Australia at all? It's kind of an issue in America. It's not a problem, but it's something that people talk about. And I don't know you guys that well personally, but would your family be okay with you dating someone that wasn't of the same race as you or outside of Asian? How did that go over in your community?
I think for me, I think I think my parents would be okay with it, but I think the biggest concern would be like, would I be able to communicate, with your significant other? Because like my mom can speak English, but she
Yeah.
doesn't feel very confident in speaking English. So, she defaults to Cantonese. So I think the biggest concern for her would be, and for my dad, would be like, can they speak Cantonese, or would they be willing to learn Cantonese? And, firsthand, Curtis, like Cantonese is so difficult.
Super hard.
So I think that would be the biggest concern for them.
Mhm.
I feel kind of bad for like calling my mum out on this here, but she's definitely always like hoped that I'd be with someone Chinese. But then when I was younger, I dated someone who was Filipino Aussie. And like it was a serious relationship. And I told her, and I still very, and then she was really not okay with it. And she was really quite mean about like the race, or she was just like, oh, or in general, she'd be like, don't be with the Aussie white guy because, Caucasians aren't as their family values are different to us. They have more divorces, blah blah. I don't know. She just has this very like traditional like Asian mom thing, and I can't do. I'm like, I can't listen to you. And then my dad would be like, oh, don't listen to her. It's okay. So yeah, thank God for my dad.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, my partner is he's half Japanese and half Korean, but he can't speak Korean. His mom's Japanese, so he can speak Japanese. When we first started dating, my mom and dad, they pulled me aside and they were like, hey, look, he's not Korean. Like, I don't think it's gonna work. Like, and I got so mad. I was like, what do you mean? Like, because for me, like, I didn't even think about it, and we never talked about dating or anything like that. And it wasn't even like the tension between Korea or Japan or anything like that. It's more like we can't communicate with him. It's too hard. Like, how am I meant to do this and this? Like, it's just going to be so uncomfortable. It looks like you guys are getting serious now. And basically, I remember saying to them, like, I was so upset. I was like, well, why did you come to Australia and you're expecting me to find a Korean guy?
Yeah.
And I freaking found someone who's half. Like, I'm halfway there. Isn't that like, that's pretty good, isn't it? And I remember like they knew I was going to be really stubborn about it. And I'm still with him now. And yeah, they speak in English and it's actually no problem, I feel like. And if anything, it's better, I think, because it's like, they don't have to talk about everything like into too much detail. And if they say something and he kind of understands in Korean, he can just like pretend he doesn't know or just stay quiet. So it's actually been like a blessing in disguise that he can't speak Korean. And but I do know that for other, my friends, it is more of a serious problem. But I feel like, I'm not the best person to say, like, give you an answer, because like a lot of my family in Korea, like a lot of my cousins, they date like non-Koreans. Like, these are like my cousins who grew up, born, raised there. I have one cousin who's married to an American. I have another cousin who's like dating like a German person. Another cousin, like they're all like, I think 3 or 4 cousins, they're like dating like non-Koreans. So it's kind of like, okay, I guess, in my family, but every family is so different.
Right.
Yeah.
In our community, well, the Bay Area especially, it's very common to have mixed race couples, and it's, I would say, I don't know, is it a majority? I don't know. What do you think, Mandy? It's 50-50. I think of my close friends. How many of your close friends are marrying?
Oh, I have quite a bit.
Yeah, it's like 50% at least.
Yeah.
I think it's high. So there, and this is a hot button topic. It tends to be the Asian women who are dating non-Asian men, and it makes the Asian men in our community, I don't know if angry is the right word, but frustrated or upset, and when they're might be on a dating app and not getting any matches on their dating app because typically Asian men are on the bottom rung of the dating totem pole a lot of times, even with Asian women, and so it's an issue out here. I don't know if it's an issue in Australia at all, but there's definitely my friend at the other podcast calls it scoreboard watching. When you're looking at the scoreboard and you're like, man, all the Asian women are not dating Asian men. How am I ever going to find someone if the scoreboard is so lopsided in that way? Is that an issue at all in Australia, or?
I feel like it is in general. Like, I think the media and how they portray like Asian men, I think it's just hasn't been good in
Yeah.
in the Western world anyway, because in Asia, like, we definitely have Asian men and role models and actors and stuff. But I think, I don't know why, it's just in the Western society, it's just so, it just seems like so stereotyped. And I think it definitely, it would be hard, like, as an Asian guy in Australia, or if they go through that. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Julia?
I think I don't feel it like, oh, this is like a really big problem in our society. That's why I was quite surprised that this was a question that you've included, because maybe, I don't know, maybe it is a huge problem here, but I'm not, from my experience, like, I'm not, I do hear frustrations from my Asian guy friends who are saying, they think the likelihood of an Asian girl getting a different race partner is more likely than an Asian guy. So I do hear them like voicing those frustrations, but I don't feel like it's a huge problem here. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this. Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know.
We'll have to find some Asian guy friends to introduce to you, and you can discuss it as another episode.
Yeah, we'll have a bro show or something.
But I've definitely
That would be
seen
super
Asian. I've definitely seen like Asian guys with, Asian guys with like non-Asian or white girls, like, for example.
No, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. It's definitely not as common as the other way around.
Yeah. Again, it's not a problem per se, but it's just observation, right? It's just that people feel this way. But I have hopes. BTS, the Korean dramas are painting the picture of Asian maleness in new light, right? So I think things are turning around a little bit in the positive. How about just overall? Do you feel a direction? I think we talked about this a little bit. Do you feel a direction for your country in terms of accepting Asian culture, or how do you think things will be in 20 years or 30 years?
Oh, that is a big question, isn't it? That is a very big question. I do like to look at what it's like in America. Like, when I've never actually been to America, by the way. I've only been to Hawaii, and even that was like, ooh, this is cool. Like, there were so many Asians here.
Yeah.
It felt really different, to be honest. Like, I felt like,
even for us.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. But I thought, is this like what the future could be like? I don't know, where everyone's speaking like fluent English, and like,
everyone's mixed.
yeah, it's just, but 20 years from now, there's definitely going to be more people like second, third generation Asians, and I'm really curious to see how that will play out in Australian society. I think, I really don't know. I feel like there'll be more educated Asians who can speak up, who'll be on media, more representation. It is definitely going to change. But I do feel like the sort of problems that you guys brought up today, like, there'll be new problems like, oh, there aren't enough Asians in like leadership positions, or politics. Yeah, I think it will be, basically like what you guys are experiencing now is what we'll see in 20 years time. That's my guess anyway.
Yeah. I'm still hopeful though, because I feel like people are talking about it more now, but it's pretty crazy to see like the violence and all that happened in America
Right.
too. So that was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, just in our faces, like, okay, we have to like face this issue, because those sentiments are still real here, even though there might not be the violence, the feelings or the ideas or those the perception of Asians is still very existent. Like it's still very real, and it's all here. It's not a perfect society. It's not racist. Like it's pretty racist.
Yeah.
It can be, and it's just like, oh my God, I really don't hope that violence is around anymore. And we
Yeah.
can all
Yeah.
work on that. Just improving and being more diverse in general, not just Asians. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's even shocked us, the violence and just the senselessness of that kind of stuff. I think it's really it surprised me, for sure, that, man, this is in our country, not even that far from where we live. And yeah, so, well, one step forward, two steps back, sometimes it goes up, goes down, so I don't think I hope we're not the vision for what things are coming, because we're not perfect by any means.
One prediction that I have is I think there will be more homogenous like groups, like society, like in Australia, in
Sure.
Sydney, because there's already clusters, but I feel like my guess is that the Asians will stick to each other, like a lot of them, like San Fran, like it sounds like there's a bit of an LA. I know like there's a big Asian community. I feel like it'll be like that here as well. Like there'll be certain areas with just lots of Asians. Like we're already sort of seeing in here, like especially new apartment complexes. All the Asians just live there because like they don't mind apartments.
Uh-huh. Because they're used to Hong Kong or
yeah.
Korea.
So it's like and kind of close to the city. So Asians sort of stick to the same places. And there's all these like food areas. I don't know if you've been to like Rhodes, but like there's all these like Asian restaurants and supermarkets, like all in, even like the way they're building the little cities, it's like you can tell like there's going to be more clusters of like similar cultures.
All right, well, let's end on a lighter note. I think Mandy and I have not been to Sydney before. Have any of us been to Australia?
I've been once.
Oh, you have?
I once dated someone who like went out there for work, and I visited, but it was like during August, so it's like your guys' winter, and it was just raining the entire time. It was like sheets of rain, so I didn't really get to experience much of Sydney. But.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny. I've seen Mandy put on blankets and more clothes, and then Julia's like taking off sweatshirts. It's
really hot today.
We're just going into you guys we're just in different worlds right now. But on that note, I wanted to say, y'all are welcome to San Francisco anytime, and if you come, we're gonna definitely have to take you out to a meal or hanging out. So we wanted to end on this kind of fun note where Mandy, Maddie, and I will give you maybe some ideas. So if you ever come out here, we'll plan a little trip for you. So and then maybe you can do the same for us in Sydney. So Mandy, have you prepared this trip for them?
I know we talked about it, but did you include it?
I did not. So you got to go from memory.
Okay. So starting off, you're going to grab coffee, a snowy plover from Andy's farm.
Well, actually, first of all, you got to come in when? September, October is probably.
Let's back
That's when you want to come.
Come during
September,
that time.
October only.
That's when it's like warm in San Francisco. So typically, like you're looking at about 70s. Would you say, Curtis?
Yeah. So what is that?
I don't know.
17? I don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah, so our Julys are actually pretty cold. Our Julys will be like 15s or, it's pretty chilly in July. But in September, we have what's called the Indian summer where it gets kind of warm. So you come in October, you'll be fine. You don't have to pack a heavy jacket or anything. All right, so we're gonna go to this coffee place. Are you guys coffee drinkers? Are you? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
So we're gonna go. What are we having at this Town?
A snowy plover. I hope I get a free drink for this, but for plugging.
Yeah, Town, come through. So snowy plover is a little bird that lives on our beaches, and it's the one that follows the waves. So if the waves go out, the bird kind of goes on. And so it's what is it? It's a coffee plus.
So it's coffee, and it's sweetened with sparkling water, and then they top it with like homemade whipped cream. And I know it doesn't sound all that great, but it's the best. It's like a coffee soda. It's delicious for me. I love it. Yeah.
So is this a San Fran only thing?
I think so.
I think
That's so interesting.
Only in the Sunset too, right?
Yeah. So this neighborhood is kind of near the ocean. It's kind of a residential area. Mandy lives there. Have you ever heard of Town?
Yes, I went to school near there.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you guys have heard of Emma Chamberlain. She's like this YouTuber.
We have.
But she used to go there
Oh,
a lot. Yeah.
Cool.
and they also have really good breakfast sandwiches too that you can eat along with your snowy plover.
Okay, so you might need a sandwich because we're gonna get on our bicycles. This is a long one. I don't know if we're gonna ride. Well, we might have to drive part of the way.
Yeah.
We're gonna take you over across. We're gonna bike across the Golden Gate Bridge. I think I kind of semi-stalked your Instagram, so you seem like outdoorsy people, right? So we're gonna get you some fresh air. We're gonna bike across the Golden Gate Bridge. It's kind of one of those things you have to do if you visit San Francisco. The views are amazing. You're gonna go across the Golden Gate Bridge, and you're gonna go down into the small town called Tiburon, which you've probably never heard of, but that's where Robin Williams used to live when he was here. Sean Penn used to live out there. So some of our Bay Area celebrities live out there. It's a very exclusive community, very richy area. But there's a ferry that will take you and your bicycles to an island called Angel Island.
Ooh.
Sounds good, right? But it actually is sort of the Ellis Island. You guys know what Ellis Island is? It's in New York. It's where the immigrants had to stop. So in the West Coast, it was Angel Island. So if you're coming from China, so my ancestors, when they came from China on the boat, they had to stop in Angel Island to quarantine. And it was sort of like a little bit of sort of like an internment camp, a little bit. And so there's a museum there where they talk about this experience, and there's poetry on the wall written in Chinese. And sometimes people got sent home, if they had a disease like tuberculosis or something, they send them back. They didn't even let them into San Francisco. Or if they had false papers, they caught them with some sort of a false. So anyway, so Angel Island's kind of like it's a beautiful place, but it's got some history to it too. But you can bike around the whole island, and it's a nice. You can get a 360 degree view of like the Bay Area from there.
There are a lot of bees there, though. That's like the one drawback.
Manny, we're supposed to be selling this trip. What are you doing?
You gotta prep them.
No, the weather's gonna be perfect. There's gonna be no bees. So then we're gonna take the ferry back into the city. So you can take the ferry from Angel Island back to San Francisco, and then where are we going for dinner, man?
PPQ. Or do you want to go Tom Long?
You choose.
I don't know.
Vacation.
I don't know.
I think they're pretty similar. So this is Vietnamese crab. So in San Francisco in the wintertime, actually, so we timed it wrong. So come in October, but somehow you're gonna stay until December because the crab season. So we're famous for Dungeness crab, and so we have crab season starts around right now, and so we have a couple of restaurants that are Vietnamese kind of based, and they do this garlic crab.
Oh, good.
Where they kind of fry the crab, and they have this garlic sauce. So you kind of just. You get the stuff off the shell before you crack it. That's the best part of it. Then you get the meat out, and then there are these garlic noodles. So don't bring a date. You'll kind of be sweating garlic out of your pores after this meal. And then I think we're going back to the beach, man.
Oh yeah, with the bonfire or ending the night. With the bonfire.
So then we're going to Ocean Beach,
but we should grab dessert at Marco Polo. Yeah.
Okay.
So Marco Polo is this ice cream gelato.
Italian
Yeah,
gelato,
but
Asian
yeah,
themed.
Asian flavors. So you have like lychee, you have sour
Red
sauce.
bean,
They have durian.
black
Yeah,
sesame.
they have really interesting
Yum.
flavors.
All right. Then we're going to the beach, and Maddie's gonna bring her guitar.
Yes.
Bring your beat up guitar. Don't bring the good one, Maddie. We're gonna go to
Okay.
the beach. We're gonna start a bonfire. We're just gonna sing some. We'll sing some BTS. What else will we sing, Maddie? Some Taylor Swift.
Exactly. That's a
Yeah.
must.
So I'll bring my bongos. We'll have a good time on the beach, and of course the weather will be perfect,
It's
which it
not
never
going
is.
to be
but
windy.
It will not be windy, and then we'll end it there. Yeah. So
gosh.
So get ready. Bring your empty stomach. Get ready for a good time. And this is kind of insider information too. This is not the typical tourist stuff that we're taking you on. So we're not going to send you on, the typical stuff. We're taking you the outer sunset.
Yes, that's what we like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
We need to
waiting for
plan
you.
this trip now.
Yeah, I really want to
Yeah, for
go
real.
now.
I love
Yeah, for real.
crab,
We'll take care of
so
you.
I'll come for the crab at least.
All right. And you can sleep on Mandy's living room
Yep.
floor, right? You
Yay.
got room, Mandy.
Thanks, Mandy.
Come on over.
Thank you.
All right. So what do you got for us? If we come out to Sydney, when should we come? What's the best time to come to Sydney?
I would say
Not
typically it's
August.
No, August that's my birthday month. That's the
Oh.
worst month to come. It's
the rainy
so
month.
cold.
Soon.
So cold and rainy. I would say
Yeah.
like October. That's like the wedding season, like the
Okay.
wedding month. What did you
Yeah.
say? Like spring?
Like
Same.
either, spring is the best, or like Feb, March, just autumn, like before it's getting cold. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Unless if you love summer, come during like December, like January, because that's when all the festivities happen as well. And you can experience like a summer Christmas.
Yeah,
Like by the beach or something, and you can see Santa in his Santa outfit. And he's always sweating. But I would say, what do you reckon? I can start with like
You start and then I'll go.
Yeah, I would say, even though like this is very touristy, like I'd love for you guys to see like the Sydney Harbour, like Harbour Bridge and the Opera House. It is stunning. Like it is so beautiful. Like I get blown away every time. So we could catch a ferry out if we want to sleep in a little bit, like sleep in, go on a ferry, like from the suburbs even, and you can just go along like Parramatta River all the way into the city. If you're feeling a bit adventurous, I've never actually done this, but apparently there's like a sunrise kayak. So you can like kayak past like Opera House and like the Harbour Bridge and watch the sunrise. So that I would love to try that out as well. So we could do that as well. So there's two options. So do the kayak in the morning, or we can sleep in and catch the ferry into the city. We would get off at Circular Quay. And I would say, like, if you like museums and stuff like that, we could have a look at like what's that?
MCA?
Yeah, MCA. Go to the MCA. It's like a modern contemporary art gallery, which is free as well, which is really cool. Maybe walk around the rocks a little bit, just to get your tourist kick in. And then I would take you to Chinatown for lunch.
Yeah.
We have a great Chinatown.
Yeah, go get yum cha. Yeah, yum cha here is really good.
In America, it's dim sum. I think you guys call it dim sum.
But yum cha is also like
yeah. So we'll definitely take you to yum cha. And then where would you take the guys?
I think after yum cha, I mean, I feel like I'd definitely take you to a beach. So whether we drive or bus out to maybe Bondi. Everyone goes to Bondi, but then there is a nice little walk from Bondi along the coast past Tamarama and all the way to Coogee, right? So it's a coastal beach walk and it's beautiful. We can like get a Messina ice cream and start walking from Bondi and go to Coogee. And it's beautiful because it goes from beach to like a crazy cliff and you see out into the ocean. And then there's a cemetery as well along the walk, and parks, and people have their dogs around, and so you walk all the way past, I think, 3 beaches before you get to the end, and we can catch the bus back to the city and do something else.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful walk.
It's so beautiful, and it's just like Bondi's got really nice sand as well. It's super touristy. So if you guys wanted to avoid the touristy, like all the tourists, I would take you to the northern beaches. That's a bit more chill, more families. And just, honestly, like we'll just take like a little picnic set up. And just chill by the beach and go for a little dip.
Get fish and chips.
Oh yeah, fish and chips.
And if you love oysters, definitely try like Sydney rock oysters or Sydney coastal oysters. I think we have one of the best oysters in the world, so definitely try it.
And then for dinner, I'll probably take you guys to ramen. Like there's whether it's Bondi or the northern beaches, there's some good ramen shops around here. If we went to Bondi, I'll probably take you to Charco Bar ramen, or if we went to the northern beaches or like around Mossman area, I would have taken you to Rio's ramen. And it's just a really good way to end the day, like beach day, and then finish off with ramen. It's so good, like.
Well, actually, Julia, I've listened to your episode. I want a ramen party.
Well, I could organize that.
I want a Julia ramen party.
Yes, we can organize that as well if you like, because they're super fun. So I'll definitely, however you get it, definitely get some ramen, definitely. And if we still have up for it, maybe a little bit of karaoke or a dessert place. There's so many good Asian like dessert places now. So definitely get some like pat bingsu or like I don't know what other Asian like Korean bakeries or anywhere really.
Man,
That
all right,
like
you sold me. Yeah, you sold me.
Come.
All right, we got to do it. Oh man, if only. We are you guys open for business in Sydney, or are you kind of still shut down a little bit because of the pandemic?
We're opening up now. The cases have gone a bit high like recently, but we're still open now.
Yeah, we just relaxed some laws as well. Before, if you weren't vaccinated, you couldn't eat out in restaurants. But now that they've removed that law and you don't have, we had a very strict mask law and that's been relaxed as well. But the cases are going up.
I know. We don't know. Well, someday maybe we'll get back to normal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was super fun.
So fun.
We talked about a lot of different stuff.
Yes.
Maddie, we're at like 3.5 hours. We got to get this done in like 2 hours. We'll do
Sorry,
it.
Maddie.
Maddie, work your magic.
Yeah.
Can do it.
We'll get all the best stuff. We'll figure it out.
Oh, thank you.
So what's new for the podcast? You got like 3 more episodes in the can already, and you're gonna do them once a week or once every other week. What's the plan for your podcast?
Every fortnight for us, and we are we're thinking of making our episodes a bit shorter because they were over an hour. So we want to aim for 30 to 40-minute episodes now. So that's something that's new. And because we have a YouTube channel where we post all our podcast episodes, we are maybe thinking like putting up another series, like not podcast related, maybe like Asian soup cooking series or something like that. I don't know, something fun and different to experiment, I guess. Yeah.
All right. And then you're just gonna go until it's not fun anymore, or do you have a goal or a plan?
So we do have a dream of going full time, but I feel like it's a very far away dream, and definitely it's like, how do people do it? But that would be the dream, and not having to do our full time jobs. But for now, I think we're just having so much fun with each episode and learning so much and meeting new people like you across the world, taking your time at night, sleeping late, and it's just so exciting that we're all able to do this and share our stories with each other. So we're really excited.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, Maddie's room is getting darker and darker,
I
and
know.
Julia's room is getting
It's so dark there.
Oh man, and I have to say too. In last episode, Roxanne dropped the thongs on us, but over here we call those flip flops, Roxanne.
I know. I was like, what?
They're Havianas. To us, they're Havianas.
Oh yeah, okay, that's just funny. Yeah, it's another one of those terms that is different, but it's been super fun talking to you guys and chatting about our differences. I think we've figured out that we're probably more similar than we are different. And that's fun to know that you can go around the world, different time zones, different continents, and have stuff in common. So that's really fun. But hopefully, listeners out there, you enjoyed this episode. We'll do more of this kind of stuff, talking to people around the world. Please give Julia and Roxanne a listen at the Asian Soup Podcast. You can find them on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, or you guys have TikTok too, or I don't know what you guys are. Oh wow, you got everything.
Yeah,
You've
got
got
a
everything.
TikTok.
Oh man, Maddie. You gotta help me with the younger demographics. I need to help get to the
I
younger
got you.
people. All right, thanks, man. But if you want to write to us, old-fashioned email, you can write us an old-fashioned email at infatuasianpodcast@gmail.com, or you can write to Roxane and Julia at roxaneandjulia@gmail.com, and you can follow both of us on Instagram. We're over at the Infatuasian Podcast on Instagram, and they're Asian Soup Podcast at Instagram or YouTube or TikTok. More episodes coming soon. You heard a little bit about Julia and Roxanne's upcoming episodes. We talking about Tony Leung movies. Another one that is coming up is my sister is coming on, and she knows a lot of chefs, so she's bringing on Chef Shirley Chung. She was the runner-up finalist in season 14 of Top Chef on Bravo. So that'll be super fun to talk about that. And she has a restaurant in Southern California. So we got some new stuff coming on in our podcast as well. We hope that you're all having a happy new year, and we're going into winter, and you guys are going into summer, which is super fun. But until we talk again, on behalf of Julia, Madison, Mandy, Roxanne, and myself, we hope that you're all happy, healthy, and safe out there. We'll talk to you again soon, and thanks for listening. Bye.
Thanks for
Bye.
listening.
Thanks for listening.
They don't know how long it takes waiting for a love like this. Every time we say goodbye, I wish we had one more kiss. I'll wait for you, I'll promise you I will. Lucky I'm in love with my best friend. Lucky to have been where I have been. Lucky to be
Oh
coming.
man,
It's a wrap.
3.5 hours. Thanks everyone, man. That you blocked out 3 hours on your little Google Calendar thing. I was like, 3 hours. We're gonna need 3 hours.
I feel like we could, even with like 3 people, I would say it goes up to 3 hours. So
Yeah,
with
that's
5,
true.
I was just like, oh, this is ambitious.
Yeah. And I didn't want to make it just pure interview the whole time, just firing questions.
yeah.
You know, try to have a conversation.
It's hard though, I
But-
feel like on Zoom,
Yeah,
because you're
of
like,
course.
oh no, you go.
Yeah, I know.
Mhm.
I know.
But yeah, we covered so many topics. You picked really good topics to cover.
Mhm.
Like it was a good mix of light and deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really hope your listeners could feel like, you know, what we said was like relatable and they
Yeah.
could take away something.
No, I think
I
so,
think so
for
too.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the prep you put in was so good, and yeah, just
Yeah,
all of that
thank
was
you.
great. We learned so.
Well,
Well,
I've been
I'm
looking
learning
forward
so
to
much.
this.
Taking notes from
Yeah.
the way you do it.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, no, it's fun. I'm just gonna do it until it's not fun anymore. You know, I don't think I ever want to go full time,
Mhm.
but it's been neat meeting
Mhm.
people. Yeah, so this will be out in January. I don't know how I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna be excited to put it out, but I think I'm gonna wait.
Well, yeah, we'll think of
But-
some ideas, like if there's any ways to incorporate, like, do like collaboration with you guys, like
Sure,
because
yeah.
we're video as well, so there's a bit of like you have to think about how it would work technically. But I think it would be so interesting to have you guys come on as a guest on our show. Or maybe we just have to fly there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me check our budget. We need some sponsors. Andy Town
How
sponsor
cool would it
us.
be if we like met in the middle or like went to Korea or Singapore
Hawaii,
or
yeah.
Hong Kong one day? Like
gosh,
that'd be so
yeah.
fun.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Oh,
you never
man,
know,
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Like these weird things
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
So definitely keep in
Yeah.
touch and we'll make
Yeah.
something happen.
Yeah,
Sounds
for
good.
sure. Yeah, let us know whatever you need. All right.
Okay.
Thanks for giving us a big chunk of your time.
No,
No,
you too.
thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much. That was so fun.
Yeah. All right. So we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Yeah.
Have
Chat
a good
soon.
day.
Have a great
It was
night.
nice to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.
So nice to meet
Bye.
you.